Okay. And we will resume now and move on to the question and answer portion. But before that, Jonathan, please, for the questions, for the Zoom participants, please type in your questions at the Q&A chat box for us to acknowledge it. And for the Zoom live questions, please just click the raise button to notify the administrator. For Facebook Live viewers, type in your questions on the comment box. Let us again now welcome Jonathan.
All right. So is there anyone who would like to ask? Maybe Irish, we can pick one randomly.
Client John, SM Supermalls.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me read the first
So Irish,
question.
I realize some people don't want to be their identities to be divulged because it's about their visibility in the office. So I totally understand kung gusto anonymous via text. So that's fine.
Okay. So shall we move on to the first question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, it's actually the question is from Indonesia. Hi, it's Glyphy from Indonesia. I feel my energy drained faster during work from home period because I have to start working early and take longer hours to finish. The working process seems more complicated to adjust, and my laptop is the only platform to meet colleagues face to face. Question: what is the best formula to strictly manage my time and energy during working hours, so I still have time to do personal life,
Okay.
such as exercise, me time, etc.?
All right. Thank you for the question. Number one, and again, this question might be answered based on how structured your company is. First, you have to investigate and ask, what are the policies and the rules laid out by the organization post COVID-19? Because if your company is really good, they should have indicated these are the ways of working moving forward. For example, our working hours are still going to be 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., which means that you should be available for any phone call, you should be available for any email by 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If those things are not yet identified, you have to ask your manager or you have to ask your HR. If your HR has not settled down with any because perhaps your organization hasn't, then you have to create an agreement between you and your manager and your are stressed is because there are no laid out rules of how long should you work. I'll be discussing this tomorrow in our session, but I want to remind everyone, guys, that because we're now in a work from home arrangement, people will have a tendency to
John, I think
because they know that they can afford.
John, I think we're losing the connection.
Okay. Is this clear now?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Better.
Is it clear? Okay. Sorry. I was saying a while ago, you have to admit the fact, and this has been reported many times. Even I have some clients right now and I have some friends who do the same thing. When you are in a work from home arrangement, people will have a tendency, and sometimes they are unconscious about it, that they will abuse your time. Why? Because now they know that even if it's already 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock p.m., you're still in front of your screen. Your phone is right in front of you. So your goal is either A, ask your HR if there is a laid out set of rules of what are the ways of working. If this is not identified by your company, you have to set one between you and your manager. Right? So
let's move.
If I were just to add, you need to have some meaningful, sensitive conversations with your manager and say, as much as I would like to contribute, and I understand, guys, this is very easy for me to say, but maybe hard to execute in real life. But I would go with a script that goes, for example, I understand that I would love to contribute as much as possible, but is there a way that we can cover workload
I think we lost Jonathan.
Like this, such as perhaps your manager is not even aware that you are the father, the mother, or the breadwinner of your family, or whatever it is.
John, sorry to interrupt you.
They will keep
John,
on loading work as they don't complain about it.
John, I think your connection is losing. Can we fix it first?
Yep. Is this clear?
Ayan, okay.
Okay.
It's
Yep.
good
Go
now.
ahead. Next question.
Okay, next question. As an HR, we are usually present and motivating our staff during activities. However, due to social distancing and crisis, we are not all together in the office. How do we engage staff remotely and individually?
There are many ways of engaging it. Small things such as, for example, doing online competitions. A lot of companies have been doing this in the past. Small things such as, for example, you send out an email to all employees asking them to do a task, and whoever gets to do it gets a prize. So these are things that don't involve physical connections, but they can still be done online. I also highly encourage you guys to do casual meetups on Zoom or on Skype, or and all of you are in front of your screens talking to each other, and it doesn't necessarily have to involve work discussion. It could be simple. I'll give you an example. A lot of multinational company clients that I had right after COVID, in a span of 2 weeks, they had every Monday and every Thursday session wherein people would share best practices on how they can cope from a personal errand perspective. How do they get their groceries? How do they make sure they still pay their bills? Small things like this become support groups. Because remember, when your people become equipped in their personal lives, they perform better. So there. And again, this will depend because this depends on the technological powers of your company. The company therefore needs to invest in things that allow them to communicate with each other fast.
Okay, there we go. Hope John answered your question. Here's one from anonymous attendee. Any suggestions on how to deal with colleagues who are too competitive, who uses small dirty tactics on the side to get the visibility they want without sounding desperately competitive?
Wow, there's so much
Whoa.
grudge there. It sounds like there's so much grudge there. Well, number one, your question is not specific only to COVID 19. When you talk about politics of people who try to outdo others, this happens also in real life. So perhaps what you're trying to say now, it has become more intense because the person is typing it or emailing it, and therefore there is now a more obvious audience. I'll give you an example. In the physical world, we can huddle people into small groups in separate meetings, but in post COVID 19, you can copy all employees in the same email. And now you have an audience. So the change is different there. So, two things. Number one, in order to have a good reputation in your company, the best solution is to install it as early as you can. So that no matter how much your image is tainted, you have a solid built amount of reputation that will not be easily taken down. And I know this is not retroactive anymore. If you're still not doing it, do it as early as now. That's one. Number two, if someone really is destroying your reputation or is trying to outdo you or trying to do some tactics that short change your performance, question number one, have you asked that person and have you confronted the person why in understanding the motivations? Number two, you might also want to ask yourself, am I the only person who's feeling this? And if you can confide with two or three people about the situation, ask them, do I feel the same? And do you guys feel the same? Or perhaps you're being paranoid that someone is ganging up on you, but that's just you thinking about it. So you need to validate. Number three, if the person is really proven to be doing something against you, you might want to need a neutral arbiter. That could be your manager, it could be another colleague, it could be HR. But before you advance this last step, you need to have a solid amount of proof that the person's really guilty of doing it. Because the least that you want is to be seen like a child whose candy was stolen by someone else.
Okay, then next question. How would you best deal with connectivity issues? This definitely pulls down one's visibility.
Number one, admit that you can't control much, especially depends on your city. Like I would have some connection issue right now. It depends on how you can't control it because not everyone will have really good stable connection. If that is the case, you have to spread your communication with everyone. So for example, there will be moments wherein you might be video to video, but you also want to spread that to text, spread that emails to emails, spread that instead via phone calls so that you know that you always have backups if ever one thing doesn't go well. And number two, you're not only reliant in one type of communication. So if plan A doesn't work, you have a plan B.
Okay, another question from our anonymous attendee. Hi, for example, the employee is new and she is having a hard time to be confident in engaging with the other team members while they do work from home and communicating online. What can you suggest to encourage her to be visible with the team? Thank you, John.
Firstly, it's a two-way street. You can't expect the person to just proactively put her face in front of everyone. You have to ask and assess, has the team properly onboarded the new office mate as well? When I say onboarding, have you properly welcomed her? Number two, have you properly introduced her to the rest of the organization, because she missed the opportunity to see each other physically? Small things such as an email announcement. This is Michelle. This is her new position. Please welcome and give the same amount of support you've been given to others. So assess yourself. Have these things been done? And number two, if they have been done and yet your office mate is still not, giving up the amount of energy that you want, and that's because perhaps she has a different communication style, that's where you may want to intervene and ask, is there something I can help you out with? Hey, there's this project wherein everyone is pitching in their idea. I noticed that sometimes you shy away from it. Is there something that I can assist you? Is there something that you think that you may not be familiar or not confident about? What can I do to help out? When you ask these things, you get to diagnose what could be the reason why she acts like that, versus assuming and concluding immediately that it's all her fault. Because again, guys, it's a two-way street. You can't always expect. A person can only give what she has received. And if she hasn't been given the proper welcome and proper equipping that she deserves, then she may not be able to give back that same amount of energy.
Okay, we have a question from Erlin. How can I handle distractions at home? Most of the participants, this is their question.
All right, very good. First and foremost, your environment determines your distractions more than anything else, guys. The fact that you are in front of a bag of chips, that will distract you. The fact that you may be in front of a television and your remote is just 2 steps away to tuning into episode 7 of Money Heist season 4, that is your distraction. Your ability to eliminate distraction depends on your ability to create an environment wherein you do not get to connect the visual to the mental cue. So you have to choose the right environment wherein those distractions are literally absent. You might tell me, John, not everyone has that generous amount of space to create an office. Well, if that is the case, then you might want to hustle to temporarily relieve a certain space from those distractions. This is where you might need to ask your family members or your loved ones, I need to get focused for this work. Is it okay for the next 6 hours? I will station myself in this part of the apartment or of the house. And your folks should be able to understand that they really love you. So that's one. Number two, I highly encourage you to set schedules. When I say schedule, if in the past we are 8 to 5 p.m. and now it's becoming more loose, you have to admit the fact that you now think that you can be easily forgivable because you don't need to be present 8 to 5 p.m. So you have to set a lot of automatic structures. In my case, I would always put an alarm. I would alarm myself from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock or 11 to 1 o'clock, for example, so that I feel guilty that if I'm not performing as much as I was when I was in the office, it puts me back into that mindset that, hey, you're slacking off. There are many apps also I can share with you later on, but you can just go to Google search. There are many apps that allow you to focus and gives you a timer and an alarm. And even there are apps that allows you to be informed that you've been using your Facebook for 2 hours straight. There are apps also that allows you to check how many times did you look at your Instagram account for the day. So just put it on Google search, just type, and a lot of them are available. So again, essence is your ability to be focused is dependent on your ability to eliminate the visual cues of those distractions.
Okay, before we move on to our next question, I would like to remind you guys, the participants, to click the raise button for live questions. Yan,
Yeah,
okay.
it would be great,
Oh,
no? Kung may 10 questions tayo.
yes, we have one, I think. Miss Iris. Miss Iris, you may now ask your question.
Otherwise, we can just have it over chat. That's fine.
Okay. I have a one question here. Prior to the ECQ, I advised our HR to quickly arrange work from home agreement for our employees. However, as a young manager of the company, the HR somehow didn't took my advice seriously. Now the ECQ might be extended. How can I help my company or influence our HR to regroup our employees and re-engage them with the company's operation? Especially the most has an ill feeling or disappointment for the company's pre-COVID.
I missed it out. What was the first suggestion that he gave to the company?
Let me repeat the question. Prior to the ECQ, I advised our HR to quickly arrange work from home agreement. I think arrangement for our employees. However, as a young manager of the company, the HR somehow didn't took my advice seriously.
Okay.
Now that the ECQ might be extended, how can I help my company or influence our HR to regroup our employees and re-engage them with the company's operation, especially
Gotcha.
now on the
I think the question has
quarantine.
nothing to do with the ECQ. It just happens to be that the issue was a suggestion about the ECQ. The question of the person who raised this is about I am young and therefore they didn't believe in what I was sharing. So the issue is about credibility, that people don't easily listen to you because they think that your suggestions are not important. And I get that. Remember, guys, that people will only listen to you when credibility has been established. And it's easy to say that people will keep on judging you, but we have to admit the fact that everyone will judge you because of their own selfish interests. In this case, I would highly suggest next time if you are suggesting something, it's either you back it up, you show examples and anecdotes that other companies are also doing it, and therefore it gives you the license to ask back, if they're doing it, why aren't we? Number three, if these things are about to happen, what's the proof and what is the trajectory that they will likely happen? I'll give you an example. Other countries also had the same issue. They did not quarantine immediately their employees, and so they had even some employees who got affected and turned out to be positive. It was already too late for HR to act on it. Don't take it against yourself if they did not listen to you. That's also my tip number three, because you can only control so much. And even if, let's say, your reason was because you were young, I think the reason why they did not listen immediately is not just because you were young, it's because they were thinking about so many other things, such as balancing commercial interests, and because you're not the only person that they should be listening to. Perhaps you were overpowered by the voice of other people, regardless of their age, right? And so, if you want, and here's where you can have your peace of mind. As long as you've given your piece of advice, you should be fine. And as long as you were able to back it up with the right set of information, don't take it against you if your suggestion wasn't solicited by the organization. Ideally,
Oh,
yes. It would be nice if they could, but you can only do so much as well. Sorry, I'm going to add one last. If you want to also make your voice louder, it can also be very helpful next time if you don't only shout out alone. If you can look for allies, or if you can look for another senior manager who can sponsor your idea so that idea can be brought to the table to the other decision makers. So again, if you can't how do you call it? If you can't drive a car, look for a neighbor who can give you a bicycle, for example. If you can't go to another place, look for a friend who can give you a lift or a ride. The same metaphor happens at work.
okay. I think, John, we have a live question here.
Yep, go
Miss
ahead.
Heidi.
Hi, good afternoon, Chan, and
Okay.
everyone. I would just like to ask because I am currently tagged as not work from home by our company, and excuse, because they think that my job my current job is not as much as those frontliners. So I would just like to ask, how can I be visible now during this ECQ season?
Okay. May I ask, by the sorry, for our friends who are from other countries, ECQ refers to the enhanced quarantine because in other countries it's labeled as something else. So just FYI on that. May I ask, Heidi, what is your line of industry?
Aviation.
Aviation. So right
Aviation.
now you are part of the organization and
Yep.
you are literally still working from home, but you are not tagged as work from home.
Yeah, yeah. Because actually the company gave us this other leave, the luxury of having other leaves on top of our regular leaves. And
Okay.
so happens that uh, my position is process specialist. So of course I am not that much into the operation because I
That's
am more on
okay.
the
Okay.
improvements. That is why they tag me as not work from home. You know, do you
If
understand? They get me
if I
where
can
I'm
rephrase
coming
that,
from.
I think what you're saying is your position is not something that was transferred into a work from home arrangement because it didn't need
Yes,
to be in the first place.
yes, yes, yes.
That's right. So,
So my question is, how can I now be visible during this season?
mm. Well, number one, if I can use a proper label for that, we call that as remote worker. Remote worker, which means that from a permanent basis or from the start, you were never really in the same physical office as others. So remote worker is a better term for that. Number two, as I mentioned a while ago, it would be nice if you can start engaging in volunteering in certain projects wherein you think you can contribute to something, even if it's outside your expertise. So simple nudges to your PR, communication, and HR and say, are there any projects that you think I can work on? And this depending on how much you can take, because I can understand you may also have your own other workload. That improves your visibility because you took it upon yourself to volunteer to something, even if you were not being asked to do so. So this is where I ask you to take out the hat. If you're working on a process hat, take it out and look at other positions that you think your expertise can contribute something. It could be an outreach project. It could be a database management project. It could
Mhm.
be as simple as, is there a survey that you guys are conducting right now for employees? Do I need to share something to my other fellow employees? Or simple things such as, for example, can you share your best practices because you've always been remote for the longest time? Is there something that you can apply to others who are now struggling because they're not used to remote work before?
Okay. Thanks a lot, Jonathan.
Thank you, Miss Heidi.
Thank you.
John, can we still have two more questions?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. How important evaluation, from anonymous attendee again, how important evaluation of productivity is uh, is due during this time, given that most may have taken work from home for the first time? Do you think it is valid to have adjustments with the way how performance of employees will be evaluated?
All right. Very good. Two things. Number one, the first 2 weeks after the enhanced quarantine, everyone is forgivable that you are still adjusting. And therefore, people can be slower. People may not be able to respond fast. People may not be able to get projects done because they're dependent on coordinating with other people who also will be slowing down. But you have to understand if this prolongs by May, by June, or by July, starting May, you cannot have the same excuse anymore because the assumption there is that everyone would have already adjusted as fast as they can. Number two, if you think that your productivity is being hampered because there are certain tools and equipment that you uniquely need but is not with you, you have to clearly draw that line with your manager. And your manager needs to understand and admit that, yes, it was from my or the company's shortcoming that these things were not provided to you. And therefore, I understand that there may be challenges. If you're able to draw these lines clearly from the very start, when you get evaluated by December, you're able to pinpoint which parts are because of your own faults or your own achievements, and which parts were because they are uncontrollable from your own end. So this is where you have to draw lines of accountability. The third part is because life again is unfair, and this is how the survival of the fittest happens. You're going to have organizations, and there are many of them who will say, yes, we did not provide you this tool, but we were expecting you to hustle and find other ways to be creative to get it done. And we are appraising and promoting people instead who are able to be innovative and creative despite those challenges. If you're up to stepping up to the plate, by all means do so. But again, it depends on the culture. I know that there are companies wherein if you rather complain that they did not give this to you, they will say, make the most out of it because we also can't provide you anything. So be careful when you raise these issues because it has to strike a balance between complaining and nagging versus saying, I want to help, but I need also tools and support for me to achieve and accomplish this project.
Okay. Before I read the last question, let me greet first our attendee from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Miss Christine Kamini. Kristen Kamini, hello. And also from New Zealand. Thank you for joining us. And for the question from Oliver Ortuz. Should we be more afraid now of privacy and security issues? More now that we are using virtual meeting, conference, seminar platforms.
Yes, we should be concerned. And this is why when you use Zoom, this is where I'm going to ask you guys, if you are going to be using Zoom, Skype, or whatever it is, the more you're going to be using them, you have to take time. Commit to 3 hours or 4 hours studying all the settings that you can turn down and turn off. They're all available in the desktop. You can also watch the webinars on how to use Zoom, for example. You can turn off many of them so that your privacy is protected. But number two, if you're going to ask me, should I stop using it because I heard that there are internet rumors that my privacy is going to be forsaken? That's up to you because that's where you have to take the cost that if you want to use a free service, it may come at the cost of these other things. So I myself be concerned about these things, but for me, there's a level of paranoia that you should only keep. For example, if we're doing these kinds of meetings, what do you think is really the amount of information that they can gather from it? Apart from your face, etc., might be scary, but there's an amount of trust that I have when it comes to the more that there is noise from consumers, that Zoom has to be better off with the privacy, the more that Zoom is going to step up. The same way that Facebook was required to change over time and was even sued because of the things that they've done with Cambridge Analytica. So if you want something that's safer, phone calls are the safest way. I have to say, phone calls are the safest way to do that. WhatsApp, video calls are the best way also because they are really end-to-end encrypted. The problem is you can't do group calls. So it's your choice. You cannot pass this on to anyone, but to the risk that you agree to take. Microsoft Teams also work, yes. But who's to say that just because there is noise on the internet that Zoom has privacy issues does not make Microsoft any more secure?
Okay, can we have one last live questions rather? Sir Philip, go ahead.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes?
Yeah, all clear.
Yeah, okay. So I have a question for you, Jonathan. So about 2 to 3 years ago, I was the only manager on the night shift. So all of the managers are on the day shift. So I felt that I have to work twice as hard in managing the perception of everybody. So during emails, I reply on as much emails as I can, or if we have surveys from HR, I have to answer it. So is there such a thing as managing the perception too much from the receiving end point of view?
Too much, okay. I get your point. It's very valid. But remember, the word too much is relative to your standards.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. When you post something on Facebook too many times, you start thinking, am I posting too much? But in reality, Facebook has its own way of trafficking your posts, such that if you think you post too much, in the eyes of other people, they're not even seeing any of those at all. So it's relative to how you see it. The same thing happens here. If you think that you're trafficking too much of their perception, you might want to think again, is it just me who's thinking this way because I'm the one who gets to see, observe all my actions? Or if I was from HR, is my first email, second and third and fourth, something that disrupts her when she is also seeing hundreds of other emails per day? And therefore, it seems like my email is just a speck of dust compared to everything. Therefore, in my perception, I may be over managing, but in her eyes, it's just nothing. So it could be one. Number two, I would bounce off this idea with your other colleagues because they may be the best person to ask because they are the closest to understand what's happening in your environment. So if they say that, yes, I think you may be over managing because I know Clara this way, because I know Mark this way, then that gives you more idea. So I can't answer for this because I'm not part of the organization, but if you can get as much as information from other people who can behave and think the same way, then that can be a better source of assessment.
Okay.
Number three, you can also ask. You can directly ask the person and say, hi, here's my concern. My issue is this, and it's an issue of time. I just want to ask if you're okay if I sent this 2 or 3 times because I am concerned that it might not be received from your own end. It may need some sensitivity, but sometimes it works because when you finally get the answer, no, not at all, it's totally fine, it's such a great relief also from your end.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Sir Philip. And now, any last few words or message to our participants, Jonathan?
Yeah, all good. If there's anything that I'd like to share, visibility is equals politics. If you want to progress fast, you cannot deny that politics exists in anywhere in the world. Remember, politics is the study of how different parties shift power from one another. So it's not only in the government, it happens every day. You wanting to get that extra slice of chicken on the plate for dinner is an exercise of politics because you're finding ways to influence other people not to eat it because you want that chicken for yourself. That exists in any situation around the world because we are social creatures and because we're dependent to each other. So in order for you to progress, visibility is part of politics. You have to make proactive and extra effort for visibility to happen. You cannot leave it alone to destiny or to luck.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for the insights, strategies, and tips. So this won't be goodbye because I'll be seeing you tomorrow again for another e-learning
See
session.
you guys also tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Okay,
Bye.
have a great day too. And now, before we end this learning session, I'd like to first greet our out-of-town attendees, participants who are watching right now. They are from Pampanga, from Bicol Region, Albay, from Agusan del Norte, from Camsur, all the way from Cebu. Hello po. From Davao, Ilocos Norte, Vigan, wow. Iloilo, La Trinidad, Benguet, Misamis Oriental from Cagayan de Oro, Nueva Ecija, Nueva Vizcaya, from Tugigaraw, Tagbilaran, and Zamboanga del Sur. So thank you so much for joining us. And I would like to thank our win-win partners, so our official media partner, Art Laws Magazine. Thank you. We would like to acknowledge as well our digital media partners, Globaltronics, Focus Media, City Advertising Ventures, Outcom. For our major sponsor, Q&E Software. Thank you so much for the win-win partners. Brother, Faber-Castell. Thank you also to Gluta C, Moringa O2, KFC, Mr. Donut, Tokyo, and of course, Lotus Biscoff. Okay? And guys, don't forget to like us on Facebook. It's Ariva Academy Philippines Inc. Again, it's Ariva Academy Philippines Inc. So please scan this QR code and it will be directed to our Facebook page. So don't forget to like us. And that's it. Okay, for the upcoming online learning sessions, here they are. Tomorrow, don't forget to register. Again, it will be Jonathan Yabut who will discuss the leadership in time of quarantine, how to manage and develop remote teams. That's going to be on the same time, 4 to 5 p.m. Next, we have invited Coach Bam Santiago, strengthening positive beliefs and tapping into courage. That would be on Wednesday. Next, we have invited Sister Mary Anthony Basa from PDDM. She will be discussing the pursuit of meaning, your spiritual journey and faith in time of crisis. That would be on Saturday, this Saturday. Please join us, April 11. Next topic would be how to be a strength-based parent, unlock your children's potential by helping them build their strengths. This will be on Monday, April 13, and this will be discussed by Coach Bernard Marquez. And we have Mr. Chris Randolph. He is one of the attendees a while ago. What should sales executives be doing to generate sales now and after the lockdown? This will be on Tuesday next week, April 14. Next, we have Ms. Renalyn Tan Castillejos. She will be discussing KonMari method, declutter your space, spark joy in your life. This will be on April 15. And of course, Social Security System Members Assistant on COVID-19 impact. This will be on Thursday, April 16. And we have invited a spokesperson from SSS, which is Mr. Jomer C. Gonzalez. And we have work from home etiquette topic, how to develop a professional image even if you work virtually. This will be discussed by none other than Ms. Abigail Arenas de Leon, and this will be next week, Friday, April 17. We have the neuroscience of unconscious mental biases. This will be on Monday, April 20, and we will invite Coach Ben Ampil. Okay, and that's it. For those of you who are asking how to register, please send us your email address and we'll send you the link on how to register. Guys, don't forget to register again for tomorrow's session. And once again, thank you for joining us. Hope to see you tomorrow. This is Irish Balonda Samson giving you It's All About Being Better in Ariva. Keep safe and stay home. Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Happy